You're listening to the Fan2Fan Podcast, and on this episode, we're talking to comic book writer J. Michael Donahue, and he shares his very unique VHS store memory and how actually the back of a VHS got him the opportunity to work with a movie production studio. Here we go. Welcome to the Fan2Fan Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Bernie Gonzalez. With me today, co-host extraordinaire Pete Charbonneau. And on this episode, we have returning guest J. Michael Donahue. J. Michael is a comic book writer. And when we previously had him on one of the episodes, as kind of happens when you get a bunch of 80s kids together, we start waxing poetic and going down the nostalgia aisles of our old video stores, the mom and pops, the blockbusters, Hollywood videos, family videos, that were very much a part of our DNA of growing up, the movies we watched. Jay shared his story, and it's so unique. It's so cool, such a cool story that we had to share it as a VHS memory. And you'll hear how J. Michael's story connects to Scream, Mystery Science Theater, the Friday the 13th remake, and Jared Padalecki's Feet. I think that's how you say his name. Either way, it's a fun story. All right, a little bit about J. Michael. On Instagram and Twitter at J. Michael Donahue. Folks can also check out your website, jmichaeldonahue.weebly.com. And you're obviously influenced by horror. That's obvious in your work. Tales from the Crypt, EC Comics, Are You Afraid of the Dark, Erie, Indiana. So how do you get into horror? Do you have like a moment, Jay, where you can remember, hey, this was the movie that maybe unlocked that genre for you?
I feel like I was a kid where I was in the age of Blockbuster, Hollywood Video, just the video store on every block. I mean, I remember Friday nights, that was the thing. Can we go to Blockbuster? Can I get this movie? Can I get this game? This is out. Oh, I couldn't find this. And I just always went to the horror section. And probably the first movie I can really remember, probably Halloween. I remember really loving that movie. And, I've come to appreciate it more. I remember definitely parts as a kid were kind of boring. Definitely. I mean, I love every minute of it now. But I mean, I watched all the Halloweens, the Friday the 13th. Like I remember my older brother is about 5 years older than me. So, I remember him getting the Scream VHS for Christmas. Wow. I was like, oh, I remember I remember the box. I remember this, not necessarily the movie posters you see now, but it was just kind of like the blue and white face, like scared faces and stuff like that.
Someone is playing a deadly game.
There are certain rules that one must abide by in order to successfully survive a scary movie.
Someone who's seen one too many scary movies. Don't answer the phone. Don't open the door. Don't try to hide.
Everybody's a suspect! You're not scared, are you?
Scream. Rated R.
God, I remember I was like, I want to watch this. And, I think he let me, I can't remember if my mom let me watch it or he let me watch it or how I got to see it.
That's the best scenario when you have an older brother or cousin, so you can kind of sneak in.
Gateway, they're horrible influences, but also great influences at the same time.
Oh, yeah. And what's funny is I remember going to the movie, the video store, showing my mom, hey, can I see this one? And it still sticks in my mind, and it's so funny. And I mean, this could get a whole nother, conversation. But she would look at it and she's like, yeah, there's no nudity in this one. Here you go. I mean, sure. People are getting ripped up eating my monsters and stuff, but there's no boobs. It's okay. So I just remember that. But like, I also remember like I was scaredy cat too as a kid. I remember like I would want to watch Nightmare on Elm Street. So I'd sit there and like Freddy would scare me. But then when I go to bed, it was like, turn off my light, run and jump on my bed, pull the covers, and then go to sleep. But I'll just sit it over and over. I mean, American Werewolf in London, The Howling, werewolves has always been one of my favorite subgenres. The biggest sucker for anthology film.
Murder, madness, mayhem, and that's just the fun part. Welcome to the crypt. You're in good company. Now here's a shocker from the man who gave you 48 hours. Revolting, but so current. Need a little holiday feel? Shall I scare up the man who framed Roger Rabbit?
The killer is here!
You ask for it. You got it. Screaming for more? I have this little number from Superman's Supermaster.
They sought to kill you.
I wouldn't count on it. But you can count on my directors. 3 Tales from the Crypt, June 10th on HBO. It's a night to dismember.
Warning, strong content.
Tales from the Crypt, Creep Show. I mean, those are 2 of my touchstones and my favorites. And obviously they're very, based on the AC Comics, they're dark stories with, people getting their comeuppance and, it is a lot of dark comedy. So I do find myself kind of emulating that, sometimes for the good and sometimes maybe to my detriment. It doesn't quite fit the story. It needs to be fully darker, or it just needs to be funny. But more often than not, I think I like adding that element in. Like anybody, everything we consume touches us.
Yeah,
kind of makes us who we are. So
lots of weekends spent at Blockbuster, and some of the best surprises, the happy accidents, and maybe not finding the movie you had intended to look for. And then you stumble onto something that's available because maybe somebody overlooked it. Like I remember, Army of Darkness, movies like that I may not have initially been seeking out, falling in love with it, and then, using that as like a gateway to find out about other stuff. But that aside, what's your background in writing? Because you had some fun stories, maybe a trip to Vermont that we have to document for folks.
There's an internship in there that we need to hear about.
Absolutely, yes.
I've done all kinds of different writing. Like I remember, I don't know why this memory sticks in my head so much, but like I remember finding like an old typewriter in a closet in my childhood home, and there was a specific episode of Are You Afraid of the Dark where kid finds a magical typewriter, and all the stories that he's a writer typing, and when the teachers are reading them, they're coming true. And so like I was like copying that story and then writing my own stories. And through the years, it's always kind of, sometimes I am writing, sometimes I'm not, like anybody, but, I've done short stories. I've done comics. I've done a graphic novel, short movie scripts, movie ideas. Like, I've always been I have this idea, and, you talk to buddies and you kind of get that collaboration. That's always just been a fun, amazing part. And it's taken me some crazy places. Kind of like what you guys said is, we talked about horror movies and watching, the badder they are, the better they are. And so, yeah, me and my buddy found an internship in Rutland, a small town, Rutland, Vermont. So small that the town pretty much closes down at 8:00, minus one bar. Everything, Walmart, everything closed at 8. And it was the biggest culture shock I think I can think of in my life, because we got there late one night, we kind of hang out, we go to bed, and the next night it's like 8:30. Hey, we should go pick up a few groceries. Hey, we can go check this out. Movie. Town's dark, nothing's open. We're like, what is going on? And we did the way we found this internship is we went to Blockbuster. We went around to every awesome, terrible horror movie that we had watched together, that we laughed together, looked at the back, where's the studio, looked it up, sent out applications. And so we get an interview, and we get this one at Rutland, Vermont, and we go up there and we get to live in the movie studio for like 3 months. One of the greatest experiences I had, because like during the day, he'd have us like editing like this and that, or, whatever, or some of the movies he'd done. He's like, hey, we retooled the scene, so kind of put this together, kind of add this in, so it wasn't anything monumental, but it was still a lot of fun. We were learning stuff.
How old were you when this happened?
Oh, we were 22, 23. And what was just so cool about that is like we'd watch movies on his daily screen, which was huge.
When you sent out like these, basically cold contacting these production companies, did you hear back from any other ones? It was the one in Rutland, Vermont. Was that your one chance to do the intern?
Oh God, we may have heard back, but honestly, I think what we got first response, the biggest thing is like we talked about their claim to fame is if anybody's a Mystery Science Theater 3000 fan, Time Chasers. It was probably one of their biggest episodes.
You are a genius! The cult film Tangents, later to be known as Time Chasers, was the first independent feature film shot exclusively in Vermont by Vermonters since the silent era.
The dream of 24-year-old filmmaker David Giancola came to life in the summer of 1991. Using the talent of local actors and crew, Giancola filmed this time travel adventure with a low budget entirely on location against the scenic backdrop of Vermont's Green Mountain.
I love about Dave Giancola and what he kind of puts into his philosophy, I think, of filmmaking and everything else, is that he would much rather be the big fish in a little pond than a little fish in a huge pond. So instead of going out and, fighting with hundreds of thousands of people, or tens of thousands of people, however many people you have that want to be the next Steven Spielberg, George Lucas, out there, he basically created his own movie studio right there in Rutland, Vermont. And, it worked out. I mean, a lot of the stuff he did, like I said, he's worked with Sean Astin, Bruce Campbell, Burt Ward, Chris Evans, Kate Bosworth, Jesse Eisenberg. He tried to always joke and be like, hey, I found all these people for you. He was getting your Chris Evans and everybody else way before they were Captain America.
This one bar in Rutledge just have like a ton of autographed photos of all of these actors that you can't see after 8 o'clock because they're closed. But if you get there before 8, you could see it.
Hey, luckily for us, the bar stayed open. That was really the only thing that stayed open.
Oh, okay, good.
So that made it more bearable. I think obviously everybody in the town kind of knew of it. I mean, if we talked to people and said, hey, we're doing this, most everything that I think he did was shot in Rutland, Vermont, or somewhere close. Like I said, he did the Icebreaker, which is a phenomenal play on Die Hard with Sean Astin as your Bruce Willis. If that tells you anything. And your Hans Gruber was Bruce Campbell.
Okay, 12 o'clock tomorrow, lunch. The slopes will be packed, holiday, but I'll be there.
And please don't. I mean, we can't be late this time.
Armed hordes couldn't keep me away.
All the equipment's already on the summit with my people. The copter's standing by. In and out time, 30 minutes. We move out in 10 minutes.
So what's the big news?
You have to wait till lunch.
Have you met anybody new?
So what did you boys lose up there? A little powder, perhaps?
No, something infinitely more fascinating.
That plane was transporting weapon-grade plutonium stolen from Russia.
He's dead! Oh, shot! Pretty neat, huh? No, it isn't.
Grieg makes it off the mountain. Some city is going to find itself with the ultimate terrorist act.
No one plays with my life.
Not even a little?
If you come here for vacation, we're prepared to guarantee you have a great time. Even if it means we have to take out a few terrorists.
Everybody thought it was cool. They were known, but it wasn't also like hey, yeah, they're here shooting. Hey, yeah, they do this. Yeah, this is like, they were proud of it, but it wasn't, like I said, felt every day to them.
Did you get to kind of throw your hat into a little bit of everything, Jay? Either writing, production, post-production, marketing?
So there, I'm not going to lie, discount it because everybody's just over there. It was a lot of bitch work. Can you give me this? Can you move around that? But he got our hands dirty and things too. It would be like, I think there was like a special anniversary or something coming up for Time Chasers. And so my buddy, while we both had obviously video editing experience, because I actually worked for, I went to Indiana State and I worked for their video production unit. And so like I did a lot of like news packages and their local sports show and things like that kind of shooting and editing. So he was editing at times like a teaser for him.
For the last 10 years, audiences have only been able to enjoy the cult classic Time Chasers one way. Until now. Time Chasers finally comes to DVD in a special anniversary edition with enhanced visuals and sound. After more than 15 years, you're invited to meet again, for the first time, Nick Miller, Lisa Henson, J.K. Robertson, Matthew Paul, and Nick's past self.
Sure, I got a transport too.
The new anniversary edition is chock full of special features, with lost, deleted scenes, audio commentary, and behind-the-scenes documentaries, including Memories in Time, which reunites the original cast of Time Chasers for a humorous look back at the film's history.
The whole thing was just a delight.
Don't wait another second to grab this cult classic in its original theatrical version, because time waits for no man.
And then there were some documentary stuff that like had pickup shots or other things. So he'd give me a list and I was going through and editing those in. So we got experience. I mean, and like I said, it was his one big claim to fame that he loved is he owned the camera that shot Rocky 2. I think he had bought it, secondhand. And so obviously he was like, hey, once the day is over, we're not here. You can have the run of the studio, my dolly or, equipment, knock yourself out, film on our green screen. Like we just kind of play around in a independent movie studio for 3 months, so we were like kids in a candy store. It was a lot of fun.
So were you editing on tape then, or was this pre-digital, or you're saying that you're kind of like straddling the line there when digital started to come in?
Everything they had. I mean, obviously, I think everything had already been digitized. Now, I did stuff like when I was doing sports highlights and things like that. I was filming on tape and I was coming in, put it in, had to digitize it into Avid and everything like that. But yeah, so I think everything they had, he had already had digitized in. It was really just placing the shots where they needed to be. And, I've done little things like I think after college, me and the same friend, Nathan Bayless, we moved down to Austin, Texas. Dreams that, hey, we're going to become the next writer and filmmaking duo and stuff like that. Let's see, that was in 2000. So that was the time where Austin was really popping for movies. Like they had the best incentives and everything else. And I remember our first task, which we were never successful with. I think he was in a way for some background work after I had moved back to Indiana, because he still lives in Austin. Troublemaker Studios. First thing we're like, wait, where are you going to find Robert Rodriguez is?
Yep, there you go.
You're going to find this studio. We looked it up. We tried to find it on like Google Maps. We were driving around and looking. We did everything we could to try and find that. And sadly, we could not. But we did a lot of cool stuff. We were down there. We made some short films. That was where I was kind of writing, trying to direct. And we did some cool stuff. Like a buddy of ours that we kind of became friends with was trying to be an actor. We were actually living down there the year that the Friday the 13th remake, 2009 version that came out with Jared Padalecki.
Yep.
He was actually Jared Padalecki's like not stunt double, but stand-in. And so one of the times he snuck us on set, I was at the time like a huge Supernatural fan.
Yeah.
And everything else. And so he was like, yeah, sneak on. So like we got to hang and talk with Jared Padalecki for a few minutes and be close to the new Crystal Lake. And
I always hear about like that kind of work where, there's some Polaroid somewhere of your buddy probably standing next to Padalecki, probably wearing similar clothes or just, for like height reference, so that they know like, all right, you're going to stand here because you about match this guy's height, but we don't need to pay Padalecki to be on set this day, but you're going to stand here and you're going to wear his clothes.
What's really funny about that, and I do know what you're talking about because you see like the old Polaroids of, hey, this is Chris Evans with a stunt double, and
yes.
They're dressed the same and they have the same hair. You can tell they're different, but obviously, they're made up to look similar for, cutaway shots or over the shoulders or something like that. But quite frankly, I think they had a couple people. He looks nothing like Jared Padalecki. I'm pretty sure he didn't have to wear a wig. Like he had more of a short red hair.
Okay.
Jared Padalecki had long brown. Similar size, but I think a lot of his stuff was certain areas like feet. So it wasn't even like a full on, hey, I'm Jared Padalecki's stunt double and do this. It was, oh, hey, I get to be his foot for a scene. Or
you got to wonder, like, at that point, do you go to IMDb? Is there like a sub filter for like the kind of, stand-in that you were in?
If you're making the claim of like, no, those are my feet on screen, like who's going to like want to argue with something like that? Like, okay, yeah.
Definitely.
The bigger question is, does your buddy have people go to him at conventions with stills, screenshots of feet and just have him sign it? Because I have to imagine the answer is yes.
Oh my God, I wish.